no coffee. Drink water and stay hydrated, okay? My name is Dennis Yamashita, and I am the monitor today for this session. And if you're here for What's My Sangha, you're in the wrong room. Today's session is called The Finger Pointing to the Moon. Just check in to see if you're awake. Different ways to explore the Dharma. And you've already read this, I'm not going to read it to you, but I feel kind of personally responsible because this is my title that I thought, catchy title, good content, right? And we have two speakers today that have prepared a lot. And sometimes you've been to seminars before and the person speaking, he didn't do much prep. They did. So because, well, you won't get your money back. So the speakers today, there are two speakers. And I'm going to first introduce Reverend Kojo Kakihara. And it's in the bio, but I'm going to just briefly go over it with you. He was born in, oh good. He was born in Hiroshima. And his education and work background, he graduated from the Kobe City University of Foreign Studies, worked for a trading company. So he has other than just ministerial experience. He actually had real world experience. And he received his, he studied at Chuo Bukkyo Gakuin in Kyoto for 2 years. Received his Tokudo and Kyoshi 2 years later, and assigned to be a Kai Kyoshi, which is the, I guess, what's teaching overseas, also known as missionary, I think, is that correct? At the LA Betsuin in Los Angeles. And then he was transferred to the Tacoma Buddhist Temple in 2010. And he has wife Masayo, daughter Satone, and son Shujo. You've probably seen them earlier, they're real cute kids. And we have Irene H. Goto Sensei. I've known Irene maybe 2 months, I'm just kidding. About over 20 years ago at the Betsuin, and she and I were kind of participating in a, I think it was a Northwest, it was some convention, it was a conference that they never, you don't remember, do you? And if you look at her, she looks really old with the white hair. But you should have seen her when she came back from Kyoto. She was all shaven. And it was beautiful. Irene was born in Weiser, Idaho. And I've known her to have been growing up in Quincy, Washington. You know where Quincy is? Way out in, where is it? Is it northeast Washington? And she graduated with 69, University of Washington, BA in something that's not taught anymore, home economics. Who knows what that is? It's not economy. And one thing I found fascinating was she was a flight attendant for a non-existent airline anymore. It's Pan American. Remember that? I liked that logo. I thought that was very cool. And she's been married 11 years to Stephen Driscoll. No, I'm sorry. 11 years. She's been married since '76 to Stephen Driscoll. 2 children, Michelle and Brent. And she became a minister's assistant in 2012 to the Jodoshi Inshu correspondence course 2013. And she went to get her Tokudo ordination in Kyoto just last fall. So she's a freshly minted sensei. So now I can call her Sensei. Right, Irene? So with that, you're in the right course. I'm really glad that you're all here because I'm pretty excited to hear your presentation. So with that, initially, Kakihara Sensei will give an introduction, and then Irene Sensei will go. And you probably are wondering what you got besides the handout. Everybody have a handout, by the way? Something that looks like that or that. So with that, Kakihara Sensei, it's all yours.
Shall we start with question? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo First of all, thank you very much for being here for our workshop. I understand the other workshop is by Bishop. I really appreciate you. And then the topic of our workshop is a finger pointing to the moon. But we didn't choose this topic. I understand it was Dennis or other committee members who chose this topic. And then, because this is kind of one of the most famous, popular parables in Buddhism, so I think quite a few of you might have heard of this parable. And then, especially in Zen Buddhism, this parable is often used. And then, but in our tradition, Shinran quotes this parable in his main work called Kojo. So that's what your handout says. And I won't read whole sentences, but just about in the middle of his quotation in a board, a person instructing us by pointing to the moon with his finger. To take words to be the meaning is like looking at the finger and not at the moon. The person would say, I am pointing to the moon with my finger in order to show it to you. Why do you look at my finger and not the moon? Similarly, words are the finger pointing to the meaning. They are not the meaning itself. Hence, do not rely upon words. And here, Shinran Shonin talks about, actually this is a quotation from a sutra, but this is a description about when Shakyamuni Buddha was about to pass away. So these are his last words. From this day on, rely on Dharma, not on people who teach it. Rely on the meaning, not on the words. Rely on wisdom, not on the working of mind. Rely on the sutras that fully expresses the meaning, not on those that do not. So I have a chance to Dharma talk almost every Sunday, and I sometimes say that, don't trust me. Don't follow me. Because I want to explain this, what Shakyamuni Buddha said. Because we humans are not reliable. We change depending on situation, time, place, condition. So Shakyamuni Buddha said, do not rely on people who teach it, but follow the teaching in Dharma itself. Dharma itself is eternal, anywhere, anytime, and to anywhere. So that's what this means. And then a parable of a finger pointing to the moon. Here, a finger is words of sutras, words itself. Without words, we cannot understand, we can realize the existence of the moon, which means the truth, Dharma. But if we are attached too much to the words itself, then we will miss to see the moon, which is the truth of the Dharma. So, but I am Irene, I want to present. There are lots of fingers which we may often miss to realize. If we cannot realize the existence of fingers, then it is impossible to realize the existence. So we want to introduce some things which we think are fingers pointing to.
Thank you, Dennis, for choosing such an intriguing title for this workshop. it really made me go through the internet a lot, because I had to really study for this, as Reverend Kakihara says, it's a parable. So when you first Google, you all know what Googling is? When you Google finger pointing to the moon, what I found, the first thing was Bruce Lee. In his movie, I think 1970 something, maybe earlier, in Enter the Dragon, where he is teaching a student in Kung Fu how to kick. So we have that little clip from Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee. Is there audio?
Kick me. Kick me. What was that? An exhibition? We need emotional content. Try again. I said emotional content, not anger. Now try again, with me. That's it. How did it feel to you? Let me think. Don't think. Feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Do you understand? Never take your eyes off your opponent, even when you bow. That's it.
Of course, in this demonstration, it looks to me like Bruce Lee is trying to teach him how to kick, to learn karate, or kung fu rather. So in this case, maybe the moon is defending yourself, or the opponent could be the moon. But what struck me more than the moon metaphor in this demonstration was the feeling. What is, feeling? And I started to search what did he mean by, don't just think, but feel. And I didn't quite understand what that meant. So perhaps you can help me with that at the end. That's just something to jog your mind, thinking a little bit. And then, so also the moon in other instances, maybe in the workplace, could also mean your company goals and work ethic and things like that. I'm not in the business world, so I'm not sure. But I believe this metaphor is also used in motivational context for workers and making money and things like that. So this is just one example of the moon. So I kept searching for finger pointing to the moon, and I was quite surprised, and I was pleased to find Todo Institute. And I was interested in this because we have had the, he's not exactly the founder of Todo Institute, but he has a place in Vermont where he does Todo therapy. His name is Greg Creech, and he wrote a book on Nikon therapy. And maybe some of you have heard of Nikon therapy, introspection, to study yourself. So much of the points that I'm going to point you to today will be based on his book on Nikon therapy, which is also based on, which he also uses Morita therapy. There are psychological techniques used in Japan. So I also found that for me, Amida Buddha is the moon, or Buddha nature is the moon, or nirvana or enlightenment could be the moon. But sometimes there are clouds, some things that get in our way of seeing the moon. Everyday things like somebody didn't do the dishes today. You get angry, so anger arises, and that's a little cloud, gets in the way of me seeing the moon. But also the Amida statue in our Hondo at Cielo Betsuin, in front of the image of Amida Buddha is a curtain. And if you will notice, when that curtain is in front of Amida Buddha, it kind of blocks the vision of Amida Buddha. And that's how Amida Buddha is to us. We're always kind of not quite clear on what he looks like. And we forget, to see him clearly. So that's another image that I've portrayed on the floor here with clouds. Something that gets in the way of our seeing Amida Buddha or our moon clearly. So I think, Reverend Kakihara, would you like to go with your piece on music? Oh, I did forget one more, sorry. I had one more image. There is the laughing Buddha that you probably are familiar with. He is another kind of one who used to say, a finger pointing to the moon. And he originated in China. Some say he originated in India, but very old image of a monk who is always laughing, always smiling, always happy. And one story says that he used to carry around let's see, I forgot. Anyway, he is a representative of somebody who can bring you happiness, riches. So sometimes you see him in front of the stores, restaurants. So I think in this image, the moon may be representing, abundance. So everybody has a little bit different image of what the moon can be. This is Hote or Budai.
So as some examples of the finger, I'd like to introduce two songs. At the Takama Buddhist Temple, I've introduced these songs before. So. But anyway, I prepared two songs. You have a handout of the song lyrics. First one will be titled Tagatame, for whom. This song is by one of Japanese popular group, singer groups called Mr. Children. And the other one is, as many of you may know, the echo from the Disney movie, Frozen. And then this has nothing with Buddhism. But But even in this popular music, you can find many fingers, many words, which expresses the Buddhist teachings or existence of Buddha Dharma. So that's why I would like to introduce. First, I play the Tagatame for whom. The song is sung in Japanese, but it has a subtitle.
Digawi ono shusesa nara Saki boku ga Lokuga shite oita kara Mou sukoshi hanashi o shiyou Nemutte shimau ni wa mada hayai darou Kono hoshi o miteるのは君と僕とあと何人いるかなある人は泣いてるだろうある人はキスでもしてるんだろう子供らを被害者に加害者に乗せ
When I was younger, I used to like this J-pop group, Mr. Children, so I used to listen a lot. Then first I just liked the music itself, but the more I listened to music, then I realized that the words, lyrics, has kind of deep meaning. So, and that's why I wanted to introduce this song. This may be just our J-pop music, but if you look at each lyrics carefully, for example, the first part, not first one, second one, to prevent the children from being victims or victimizers living in this town, what should we do first? But if they become victims or victimizers, is there nothing we can do but crying, weeping, and praying? At my Takuma Buddhist temple, we have a Buddhist 101 once a month instead of my just giving a Dharma message. I received some questions from people about Buddhism Jodo Shinshu, and then I give my talk in a style of answering to the questions. Then in 2 years ago, I received the following questions. The question is, how do we as Buddhists respond or react to our national violence, like Boston Marathon? You know, in 2013, they had a bombing in the Boston Marathon. So this question was after that. Then as my answer, I introduced a statement by the former Gomonshu, a spiritual leader of Jodo Shinshu, Koshin Otani. He said, when a tragedy happens, people tend to just sympathize with victims and fear that they themselves may become victims sometime as well. However, what we should fear more is that I, myself, had a possibility of becoming a victimizer who causes a tragedy to others. So as he said, we tend to just be a side of victims and sympathize their families and friends, withholding sadness and anger. But Buddhism teaches us to see things from different ways, different aspects, and have self-reflection through happening. So if there is a victim, that means there is a victimizer who caused the tragedy. And then, as this song says, children can choose in what kind of circumstance they are born. So if they are born in a circumstance of a conflict or war, they must become either victim or victimizer, unless we adults stop fighting each other. So this world is not only us, but for children for the future. And then the song continues, just simply holding on together, tapping into each other's shoulder, taking each other's hands and holding on together. For how many times will we encounter sadness and anger again lurking in this world? Could we forgive? So Buddha says, Shakyamuni Buddha says, hatred can never cease by another hatred. Hatred can only cease by love. This is an eternal law. So, and also this song continues, people in left side, people in the right side, they are connecting each other. They are being connected with each other somewhere. We cannot bring one side to justice because we are creatures linking each other. So this is one of the famous popular Buddhist teachings, interconnectedness. We're all interconnected with each other. That's why Buddhism teaches us that benefiting others leads to benefiting myself. So we are all different, and our justice is not the same as others. But sometimes we may force what we think is right for justice on others. But Buddha teaches us to understand and respect other people as they are different, because we are all different. Then that song is concluded by saying, battling and battling. For who battling? Who won the war? For whom? For who? For whom did we battle? So not only actual war or conflict in living in this society, we sometimes, or all the time, have to be busy and competitive, regardless of we wish or not. But sometimes we do not understand why we have to be so busy, why we have to be so competitive, why missing the purpose of living this moment, living this given life. So for who we are fighting, for who we are battling. So each one of us makes this moment, each one of us makes this world, what this world is now. So true happiness never stands on other people's unhappiness. So for me, this song, it makes me think in this kind of things. And then the other song is Let It Go, as you may know well. This is from Disney movie Goto.
Souls wide
have you watched the movie? So for me, the title of the song is already exactly what Buddhism teaches. Let it go. Just let it go as it is. And also, the song says, a kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm a queen. There is a following phrase in the sutra. In the midst of worldly desires and attachments, people are born alone and die alone, come alone and go alone. So no one else can live my life for me. So I have to be responsible for my own life. I have to live through my whole life, taking responsibility and undertaking all karma which I make in my life. But we can live my life selfishly. Because as Sensei from Reverend, the temple often says, my life is not only my life, but my life is made of kindness, love, patience, sacrifices of countless other people and countless living beings. And then the song also says, the fear that once controls me can't get to me at all. The Buddha says, when you are your mind is caught by anger. When you are greedy, your mind is caught by own greed. When you walk Buddhist path, the sufferings or the egos that used to trouble you, maybe still sufferings, but never bother you too much, because you will know how to face and how to deal with these sufferings and egos. And then the song continues like, I am one with the wind and sky. Becoming one with everything, beyond difference of individual, like I, you, he, or she. That's the enlightenment of Buddhism. That's a goal of us, Buddhist. And then I introduce a famous and funny joke. You should laugh. A Buddhist monk wanted a hot dog, so he went to a hot dog food store. I should laugh. The hot dog vendor asked, "What would you like, sir?" And the monk straightened himself to answer, "Make me one with everything." Make me one with everything. The vendor hands him a hot dog and says, $4. So monk gives him a $5 bill and waits to receive his change. But the vendor ignores him. The monk finally asks, "Where's my change?" The vendor answers, "Sir, the change only comes from within." And also, the song says, "Here I stand and here I stay, and past is in the past." So we can live in the past or in the future. So now this moment is the only time when we can live. So it's important to reflect upon and learn from the past. But we should not be attached too much to the past which has already passed, or the future which has not come yet. So to be able to say, "Here I stand and here I will stay," is that you have realized where you are standing now, the foundation of your present life. And also, the song says, "The perfect girl is gone." So we humans are not perfect, but called foolish. Foolish beings, as we may know. So, a genius who invented this convenient box said, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." So, So he might have understand the Jodo Shinshu teachings, stay foolish. So realizing this, then you see your true self, and you are able to live your life more positively while striving. And lastly, a cold never bothered me anyway. In Jodo Shinshu or in Buddhism, it might be death never bothers us anyway. Life always exists with death. So accepting that brings us more meaningful and richer life. So this is the true way of living beyond life and death. So I thought that Elsa, maybe she's enlightened. As I showed, our daily life is full of things that teach us the existence of the moon, the existence of the Dharma.
Okay, I was going to go into Shoshingen at this time, but I think I would like to comment on some of the ideas that Reverend Kakihara just brought out in this song. And it's a children's song and a children's movie, and I wanted to use that to illustrate why we need to teach our children not to become victimizers. I think that's a role that parents and grandparents, that I think many of you are, that we can teach our grandchildren not to become victimizers. And one of the ways that we teach that is self-reflection. And Reverend Kakihara also referred to, studying ourself in Buddhist teachings. The Dogen said to study Buddhism is to study yourself. And that studying yourself is a principal teaching in Nikon therapy that I alluded to, taught by the Todo Institute and Greg Creech. And one of the ways of discovering yourself is to find what you are grateful for. And to do that, he asks 3 questions. What has someone done for you today or in your life? What have you done for that person in return today or in your life or in a certain time span? And then you are asked, what trouble have you caused that person today or in your life? And he has you write down all those answers. And he actually holds retreats in self-reflection. And when you realize what you have received and see in comparison what you have given, you realize that you have a lot to be grateful for. And when you have that gratitude in your heart, you can understand what other people have suffered for you. It gives you a time to pause before you can strike back when you get angry. You are not above that person because I am just as weak as that other person. Sometimes when we get angry, we just blame the other person, think it's all their fault, but it reminds me, I was on a jury one time about an insurance claim on a car accident, and I got kicked off the jury because I said, well, just, once you get in the car, you're kind of responsible already. That's, if you want to take on driving a car, then that's part of your risk that you take, so you're partly responsible whether it was the other person's fault or not. So I got kicked off the jury. You might want to use that as an excuse sometime. But I've been on the jury many times. It's very interesting. So what Nikon practice does, it gives you a feeling of gratitude. And why gratitude is important is it makes you think about the other person. Greg Creech's wife does parenting workshops, and she found her 2 young girls arguing, fighting. You know how siblings fight. Well, she decided to make a virtue vase. She took a vase, put it in the center of the table, and she said, now, instead of arguing, I want you to try to think of a good thing, a nice thing, called a virtue that your sister has done for you. And you can point it out, and every time you point out a virtue of the other person, you can put in this little pom-pom. She took, those little fuzzy things, she put a pom-pom in the vase. And it was rather a large vase. She thought it would take a while to fill up. But the kids kind of liked this idea because she said, after the vase is full, we will have a family gift. We will go out to dinner, we will have a party, play a game together, have our favorite dessert, some little prize at the end when the vase is full. So it turned out that the girls really liked this game. So they would go out of their way to give their sibling a favorite toy or fluff up mother's pillow. And then one day, the younger one came to her and she said, Mom, I think next time we put a pom-pom in the virtue vase, we have to not put in one because I accidentally put in 2 pom-poms on that last virtue I put in for. And then she said, Mom said, no, honey, she says, you get that pom-pom because of your honesty right now. So when you find goodness in other people, you tend to be more generous. You give them more space, you give them more room. There are many forms of cognitive behavioral therapy. I don't know any. I'm not a therapist at all. I didn't study psychology and I didn't study philosophy, but thank you, Dennis. I did read quite a bit, just Googling about finger pointing to the moon. So this self-reflection helps our mental health. It even helps in investment choices if you study yourself. What do you really need today? Do you really need a new car this year? Can you, put it off? And relationships with loved ones, I think, is the most important. It seems like today, young people are, I don't want to generalize too much, but it looks to me like kids and even adults are being isolated by their little electronic devices. So I think it's important that we learn to get along with each other as best we can, face to face. So when you look at yourself and see your faults, you can empathize with the other person. A good example is an apology. Sometimes it's nice to apologize, and if you've ever been apologized to, how do you react? I'm trying to think of I didn't write down an example. I'm sorry that I spread a rumor about you. And I hear that you found out that it started with me, and I can tell that you're really angry with me now. She says, I'm very sorry I caused that rumor. It was a mistake. And how would that person react? Kind of a serious accusation, serious rumor that she started. Wouldn't it be nice to hear, instead of, fine, I accept your apology, just don't do it again. Instead of that, perhaps you could say, you know, I can understand that you made a mistake, perhaps, and it was just something probably that I might do sometimes too, and I probably have done that. So let's just forget about it. And that brings to mind that, is her name Elisa? What is the girl's name in Frozen? Elsa. She just says, let it go, let it go. But how do you let it go? And I think Nikon therapy, the exercises are a good way to just let it go by thinking of yourself. I didn't see the movie. I don't know what the theme is. It sounds like a boy-girl relationship, no? Anyway. Sisters. Oh, it is sisters, so I had a good example there. But I think we need to try to figure out how to tackle those let it go. You know, it's because of our ego that we don't let it go. And we need to find out how, you know, we are the same. That person isn't better. We aren't better than the other person, in other words. So Nikon therapy, I haven't gone through the what is that, retreat. I think it's a week-long retreat. But it would be very interesting. Actually, I was going to talk about my Tokudo experience a little bit, and Nikon therapy, and perhaps Morita therapy. Nikon therapy, as I read about it in Greg Creech's book, is a week long, and you're in isolation, pretty much in rooms partitioned, and you are given these questions. And you don't write them down, you think about them, and then you allow somebody to come in and listen to your answers. And all you do is think, you eat, and I think they even do your laundry for you. But at Tokudo training, we had to do our own laundry, and we weren't isolated, but it was pretty regimented and quite intensive, and that's what Nikon and Morita therapies are. They're pretty intensive to make you think about yourself. So back to Tokudo. Shall I talk about Shoshingen now? Okay. Today's keynote address by Reverend Gibbs was really nice. Didn't you think so? I thought just kind of fun and uplifting, energetic. And that's how learning Shoshinge has come to me to be. When I first started coming to the temple and chanting sutras, I still, don't understand them completely, but they were totally foreign to me. I grew up in a Christian atmosphere, not an atmosphere, but I was taken to Christian church all through high school. My parents were Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, but there was no temple nearby, and they weren't really indoctrinating me. They had a little Butsudan, but they sent me to church where I could learn the teachings of Christianity, and they wanted that for me, and I am very, very grateful for that. But I miss the hymns. The singing is so invigorating, and when we are singing at our temple, it just sounds like nobody knows the words and nobody knows the tune, and every once in a while I can hear somebody that's kind of stands out a little bit and singing beautifully. And then we seldom sing chant the Shoshinge. I almost said sing, but I never thought of chanting as singing. Singing and chanting were separate ideas to me. But after going to Tokudo and hearing Shoshinge and how beautifully it could be chanted correctly, I changed my mind about Shoshinge. It wasn't just a long sutra that we chant seldomly. I also realized that Shoshinge is not just chanting, it's singing, it's music. When my son's puppy dog, a little corgi, was over, and I was trying to get the right pitch to the Shoshinge because you have to chant it in the right pitch. And I was going, ah, ah, and the dog started going. But when I talk to him, he doesn't do that, because so there's something about the quality of the voice, is different. He has to hit the right, I don't know, the vibrations? I don't know about music, but so that was one day when I realized, yeah, chanting really is music. So at Tokudo training, we chanted Shoshinge in the morning, we chanted it at night. We had many teachers who are very, very talented. One woman especially had a beautiful voice, and we would practice holding service, and we'd each take a wasan and chant, and she would correct us in this beautiful voice. And all the people there were very, very musical. But on top of hearing it chanted beautifully, as I've come to understand the meaning, it's even more beautiful. So as Reverend Gibbs said this morning, I hope that we can chant Shoshinge more, because it is a beautiful sutra to chant. I don't know, hymn. Lost my thought. But Shoshinge will be chanted tomorrow morning at 8:30. We don't have the hymnal books, but if you'd just like to come and experience it, it takes about 25 minutes, maybe a little bit more with the wasan, 30 minutes anyway. So, I can't think of anything else to say about Shoshinge. Sensei, do you have anything to say about Shoshinge? No? Talked about feeling. What I found about Bruce Lee, kick with feeling. I don't think he meant to kick as hard as you can so that you can just, experience how it feels to make that pain come out of him. I think it means to, do what you do passionately and just love it. I don't think I'm quite there with Shoshinge yet. I haven't memorized the whole thing yet, and I think when I do, it'll become even more beautiful. But it's a challenge to me. All of this is a finger pointing to the moon. I gave you all a word, a Valentine word, and I just wrote some of the words that I ran across as I was doing research or Googling. And I put down the finger. There's 2 fingers or 3 fingers on the back wall there, and they're pointing up this way. And there's some clouds on the way, and the finger. And then over here is the moon. So I thought it might be an exercise for you, if you haven't already thought about your word, to go and place your word to where you think it should be in this range. Is it just a finger pointing somewhere? Is it almost pointing to the moon? Is it something that completely gets in the way of seeing the moon? So that's what your little cards are for. And I also gave you an exercise, a little bit representative of Greg Creech's Nikon therapy. There's 2 of them, one on the front and one on the back. So I don't know how much time. Do you have any questions? Are you totally confused? This was all about mindfulness, to be mindful of yourself. And I mentioned many types of cognitive therapy these days, cognitive behavioral therapy. And the Seahawks I was watching the Seahawks playoff and game, during this research time, and I could see so much philosophy in their training. And I found just the other day this one of somebody doing yoga. So yoga is a type of meditation. Okay, I guess it'll speak for itself. So there's Russell Wilson in his yoga pose. So at training camp, they do, I think they say at least 10 minutes of meditation, and they're not required to do it, but they do some meditation therapy. It helps them focus. So.
We should conclude. Then, I think we need the words to realize the existence or to understand the meaning of the words. And then, so we need a finger in order to realize or touch the Dharma. But I think we may often miss even to realize the fingers full of our daily lives. Like this, and our daily life may be full of fingers pointing to the words. So once 2 more minutes. Once I talked in Japanese about this, we say arigato for thank you in Japanese. Then I asked the audience what the opposite word of arigato. A person said, not arigato. It's not like that. It's not like thank you and no thank you. But the opposite word for arigato is atarimae. Taking for granted. When you take something for granted, you never appreciate it. You never thank. So when we take many things for granted, we don't realize how precious that is. In that way, we miss many fingers pointing to it. So I hope this will help you with find realize the fingers in your daily lives. Thank you very much. Please join me in Goto. 南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏。